Certainly does feel as if I've got unfinished business at the Vuelta a España. I mean, having finished second 3 times now, um, it would just be incredible to win the Vuelta. I mean, it's a race I love doing every year. Amazing crowds, amazing rivalry between the riders. It's a relentless race. I mean, the course is always a lot more mountainous than the Tour de France. The conditions are tougher. Being mid-August in Spain, it's quite common to have temperatures up in the mid-40s. I mean, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. But and to win something like that, it feels as if you're taking on an even bigger challenge. It's certainly not easy to go straight on from the Tour and to shift the mindset to suddenly getting ready for another Grand Tour, another 3-week race, just a few weeks after the Tour de France. And I think this year in particular, it's been extremely hard given the pressure in those last few days of the Tour. I think it was only natural to get to Paris and just to really just let go a little bit and to switch off after such an intense period. So it's been quite hard to refocus again, but certainly coming up to altitude with my teammates and a group of us who are going to be focused on being at our best for the Vuelta, it's certainly been a lot easier by having guys who are in the same position as me, and I've got a good feeling about this year's Vuelta. I think we've got a lot more purpose, and it feels like we're on a much more of a mission this year, focusing on the Vuelta a España. It certainly is a huge motivation for me, given that no one in the modern era has done the Tour of Vuelta double. I mean, it was back in 1995, I think, the last time it was done, and especially since the Vuelta has moved to being after the Tour, it's never been done before. So in a way, that's an even bigger challenge for me than just targeting the Tour de France. So motivation couldn't be higher at this point. I think this year's Vuelta has certainly got a good balance between time trialing, mountaintop finishes. I mean, with 9 mountaintop finishes, it's a very it's heavily weighted for the climbers. But then, having said that, with a individual time trial of over 40 kilometers, there could be minutes won or lost there as well. So it's a great balance between the pure climbers and the rulers who can also time trial. So I think it's going to be a really exciting race and a well-balanced race. I think one thing that really sets the Vuelta apart from other races is that, given where it is in the season, after the Giro, after the Tour, towards the tail end of the season, you've got this mixture of riders who, some riders have targeted the Vuelta specifically and they're in fantastic shape. Other riders are coming off a big season of racing already and potentially just hanging on to whatever condition they've got in the race. And people who possibly have missed their goals earlier in the season, and the Vuelta is a chance to salvage what's been a tough year for them. So typically it makes it a very aggressive race, a very punchy style of racing, and always makes for great viewing for the fans. I think my main rivals at this year's Vuelta will come from the likes of Romain Bardet from the Tour de France this year, Fabio Aru, who is also in great shape at the Tour de France, guys who haven't done the Tour necessarily and will have focused more on being ready for this year's Vuelta a España, guys like Vincenzo Nibali, Bob Jungels, Adam Yates from Orica, also riding with his brother Simon, and as a team, I think they pose quite a threat. Also with Esteban Chavez on the team, so big threat from Orica Green Edge. I think it's, as with every other race, I think we all start on zero, and everyone has to be given the respect of being a potential race winner, and only once we get into the race and someone actually loses time, then you can start to discount them slightly from being an overall contender. But right up until that point, you've got to treat everyone as a threat, as a rival. I don't think we've got to the Vuelta a España with a lineup as strong as we've got this year. I think our team this year is a lot more focused on the Vuelta a España itself, of being ready for the Tour of Spain, and I'm certainly going into the race with a lot more confidence in the team around me than I have previously. Yeah, looking back at this year's Tour, it just feels as if it was the most closely fought battle I've had in the Tour de France. And for me, it's always going to be remembered as that right up until stage 20, after the finish line in Marseille, in the stadium there. The pressure couldn't have been higher, and the tension between those rivals, between the front runners. I think it could have gone either way, and it was only when I crossed that finish line in the stadium in Marseille that it really sort of sunk home that, okay, I've won the Tour de France again for a 4th time, and just got to get it to Paris now. But right up until that point, it's just such a close race.